Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to today's session in which we're going to be discussing the assignment brief, for um, organizational behavior. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to actually show before I start. Hi, good afternoon, and hi, good afternoon. So, just a couple of things which I want to actually show before we start the session. I'm going to try and share my full screen. And this is primarily to give you a sense of what all is going to be required, when we start to do this particular assignment. Now, I will have a couple of documents open on my screen, and I want to just organize them. Give me 1 second. And there we go. So what I'm going to do is obviously, let me just share that. There we go. So now what you see, first of all, thanks for joining the session. And we're going to be looking at doing the assignment discussion, for this particular unit, which is organization behavior. This is something that we've completed yesterday. And what I want to do is emphasize on the fact that there are 2 assignments that you'll have to complete on this unit. One is going to be part 1. And that is going to be more around management and personality portfolio. So this is something that you'll be able to look at from a point of view of doing your skills, personality, and attributes test. I'll explain that in a bit more detail. And the second part of the assignment is going to be focused on power, politics, and culture. Now, as you know, we've gone through this particular unit, which is where you have the unit specification on your screen. This particular unit had 4 learning outcomes. And we've covered these 4 learning outcomes in significant amount of detail. There is a lot of material that I put in on Moodle, which is including presentations. There are recordings for these sessions that we've conducted. And then we also have the handouts that I've mentioned and the recommended books from Pearson, which are all available for you to be able to study this unit in great detail. Now, this particular unit has 2 assignment briefs. And they are basically divided into covering the assignment part 1, which is this one that you see on your screen. This particular assignment actually covers learning outcome 1, 2, and 3. And assignment, formats from Pearson are pretty standard. So this is an assignment brief which has been released by Pearson, which is what you see on your screen. This is part 1 of the assignment, and the assignment is labeled as management and personality portfolio. Now, this was issued on the 10th. And the due date of submission for this assignment is going to be the 9th of April. Now, what I would suggest that you need to look at in this particular assignment is there are bits and pieces just to understand the assignment brief. We look at the introduction, which normally comes in from the unit specification on the left here. There is general, obviously, information available that you should be able to access your HN Global platform and also be able to access everything on Moodle, which will be required primarily for the purposes of doing the assignment and also studying the unit. Now, one of the important things in the Pearson assignment is the submission format. So when we look at the submission format here, for part 1 of the assignment, you're going to be looking at covering portfolio of evidence. And this portfolio of evidence will essentially be looking at completing personality attribute audits and a reflective statement. It'll have a motivational group activity and a reflective presentation or write out in a Word document, which basically talks about the activities that you've undertaken for this assignment. The word limit for this assignment is 2,500 to 3,000 words. All the work and obviously any assignment that we do with Pearson BTEC, they're all going to be essentially following the Howard referencing route. Plagiarism is going to be taken seriously, and obviously, if you have similarity go more than 20%, the report of that assignment will be sent back to you, and then you will need to look at paraphrasing and using appropriate referencing to ensure that you are meeting the criteria for similarity on your assignments. Now, anything greater than 20% is not going to be acceptable. Now, there are 4 textbooks which are recommended. Three of them books are available on Moodle. They are available for you to be able to study further, and obviously looking at examples, theories, applications, then they should be picked out from the books and the articles that have been uploaded on Moodle. There are some recommended websites. For the unit, we are going to be looking at a company called Zara Clothing, essentially, or Zara Group. And this is where you would need to refer to the company website to be able to get hold of information part of it is, but contained in the assignment brief. There are some resources obviously given by Pearson itself on the HN Global platform. Their links to these resources are also provided here. Now, the first assignment, as I mentioned to you, is a combination of 3 learning outcomes. So the 3 learning outcomes are mentioned here. Let's quickly go through the scenario, look at the role which has been assigned in the scenario that you would assume when you start doing this assignment, and then what is the assignment guidance and activity or evidence which is required to be produced. And I'll take you through that in this discussion. So this is how the assignment brief is structured. Toward the end, essentially, you will see the grid, which is the yellow and AC grid. It basically would have the learning outcomes which are covered. So it gives you a good perspective in terms of what assessment criteria you're going to be hitting when you compile the evidence for the Pearson assignments. I think one of the other things that you'll have to notice that we don't label our assignments, or the tasks given in the assignments as P1, P2, M1, M2, and so on. This is because Pearson follows a holistic approach on assessments, and what we are expecting learners to be able to do here is to basically hit all these criteria. So the assessment grid is given at the end of the assignment for your information to kind of pertain, so that you are able to refer to it. And obviously, when you're creating the evidence and including that in your assignment, then you are pertaining this to the assessment criteria that you're trying to hit, and thereby, in short, the grade you would want to achieve on this particular unit. There is some journal guidance given on how to submit the assignments, plagiarism advice, and those are bits, and referencing, those are bits that you can read through, which are given towards the end in terms of journal assessment advice. Now, let's look at the assignment brief as a whole. And now the scenario that we have been given in the assignment brief, it says the organization is Zara, which has stores in multiple countries like England, Germany, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. The retailer offers, obviously, latest fashion, beauty, and homeware products on the high street. They keep the prices low and offer a large range of own branded items. They pay well and expect their staff to work hard. Managers can expect to work in a fast-paced environment, but with a family, it feels that you need, because it's a large organization in about 90 countries, you will also essentially be needing good training and expertise on hand from your superiors or your managers. Now, your role for the purposes of doing the assignment, you're to assume that you're currently working as a graduate store trainee manager at Zara. You're responsible for leading, motivating, and developing this team of store employees to ensure consistent delivery of standards, customer service, and have relevant product knowledge so that the colleagues are able to maximize on sales and profitability for the store and for the overall brand Zara. Now, you are to ensure that delivery of the brand is in line with all merchandising guidelines, visual merchandising guidelines, and with the usage of your creative flair, you are supposed to proactively drive store performance across all departments. As a part of your graduate training, the retail company provides masterclass management training sessions, which are led by the executive team. In each session, you will carry out individual and group activities with your peers. You are to record what you do and use the information gathered to reflect on your contribution and make justified improvements for self and towards creating an effective workforce. Now, this is the background that you need to assume. You are working at Zara, you're a graduate trainee store manager, and before you even start your job, and when you actually start working in the store, an executive team is responsible for ensuring that you're trained on all aspects of handling the store operations, including merchandising, sales, customer service, and to be able to deliver standards which are required, in these stores. And this is what you will maintain for people that you will be directing and working with. And that is what is the background given. Now, what is the assignment activity? Now, there are 3 sets of masterclass which have been designed as a part of your tasks to be done in the assignment. Now, the first masterclass focuses on personality and perception. And here is what we will need to do is primarily go in. It says complete a personality and attribute evaluation that audits your skills and personality traits, discuss whether they are positive or negative in terms of management approaches, and reflect on your personality and perceptions of self in terms of your own performance. Now, for the first section of the masterclass, what you're looking at doing is essentially going to the website. And when you're on the website, what we are going to be looking at doing is on the website, we are going to go and find what is called the Myers and Briggs, personality test. This is the first part that we're going to be looking at when we look at personality and perceptions. Now, what I've done in person is that I've gone in and obviously looked at Myers and Briggs, and obviously there is tests which are developed to understand when you have to do your skills audit, your traits, your characteristics, and obviously your personality audit. There is this particular important test which was developed by Myers and Briggs. It's called the MBTI test, and there are different websites which basically offer these exams. And as a part of your assignment, you would be required to undertake an actual test on yourself, wherein you're going to be taking this particular test using any of these websites. Now, what I did was I referred to the personality test indicator website, and basically I looked at starting a test here. Now, when I went through this particular test, the website actually took me through a test on my personality types by asking me a number of questions. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And once that was done, as you can see, it starts to generate the test. And when you look at clicking on this, what you would need to do is go about answering the questions, and to the best of your ability. There is no right and wrong answer to it. Once you complete this particular part of the test, what happens is towards the end of it, it will ask you to email, put in an email, and it'll ask you to essentially pay for it. Now, there is a payment of, I think, £15.99 or £16 that you will need to make. And once you make that, it'll allow you to get access to 2 or 3 different types of tests. So I basically made a payment of £21, and it allowed me to access tests on IQ, my personality, and also my emotional intelligence or quotient test. And I did all these 3 in order to ensure that, I could have records of it with myself. And that is what essentially came out. Now, when we look at these personality tests, it basically looks at doing the mapping of your personality against the MBTI, results, which are a set of tests which are normally taken for detecting what type of personality do you have. So if I type MBTI, and you would see that these Myers and Briggs Foundation tests come up. There are 4 basic categories, which are basically looked at in terms of when you take these tests, and then depending on your chosen type, the tests that you have taken, the results will actually show where and what your personality type is. What are the skills that you have, what are the attributes that you have in your personality, and then it gives you some sort of synopsis or a summary of who you are, what your personality is, how you're driven, and what traits you have. And then obviously, it also does ranking of your IQ, and thereby giving you an IQ score to explain, your personality type. Now, this is what I would recommend that you go about doing. And once you have done this particular part of the test, what you need to then do is discuss the results of your test, both in terms of positive and negative, and then also reflect on your personality in terms of your own performance. So after doing the test and looking at the results, I went through all my results in detail, understanding what my results are predicting in terms of my personality. And once I've gone through these tests, what I've done then is basically start to look at the first part of my assignment. So what I did was I copied and pasted the role here for Masterclass 1. And then I said, okay, one of the tasks given here and the task given here in the assignment brief, as you can see, is to complete a personality and attribute evaluation that audits my skills and my personality traits, which is what I've done using the website personality test. Now, once I've done these, there are 4 types of tests that I looked at in terms of coverage of theory. There is Myers-Briggs type indicator test, which is MBTI. There is DISC assessment. There is emotional EQ assessment, and then strengths finder assessment. Now, I have done the emotional intelligence. I've also done the personality test, and I've also done the IQ test. Now, once I've done this, what I've gone about is basically reflected or discussed my results in terms of the positive and learning, positives and negatives, and then also made a reflection on what I have learned by taking this skills audit and the personality audit using the personality tests on the website. Now, in some cases, what will happen is you will also be able to download a PDF like I show you on the screen, and this will talk about your results in detail. So once I have taken this particular test, and because you're paying for this, it's an 84-page report that you get, and obviously you are going to be able to understand basic aspects of our personality in terms of, you know, your IQ, your EQ. And what I would suggest is when you are taking these tests, take a screenshot with the website so that you are able to attach this as a proof, you know, within your assignment towards the annexure. So if I just do this right now, and what I've done is I'm going to insert a page here and then look at annexure 1, and this is screenshot of the personality tests. So here is where I'm going to insert this as a evidence that these are the tests that I took, and this would be then available to us when you submit your assignment, and that will comprehensively show that you've done the first part of your task as per what is required to be covered in Masterclass 1, which is personality and perceptions. So what you see in terms of, let's say, the proof and the evidence that you've compiled, this is the first part of the assignment, and this is what has been produced after going through, you know, the test. And then what I can also do at some stages, include some relevant sections of the personality results that I've got after taking the test, and then do a reflective learning, and obviously talk about what could be the improvements I could make in terms of working as a graduate trainee manager. So that helps me complete the first part of the assignment, but this would take about half an hour to 45 minutes for you to be able to go onto the website and then obviously complete these tests. It takes you know, a good 30 to 45 minutes to be able to complete. Pay for these tests, get your results, and obviously once you've got these results, then you have to do a reflection on your results and obviously summarize them in the first part of your report. Now, the second part of the assignment brief talks about masterclass, which is motivation. Now, as a part of your training, you've been asked to provide solutions for addressing how morale, lack of focus and productivity of employees on the shop floor, staff work long hours and long shifts, and they are dealing with challenging customers, and the work can be repetitive. They often sometimes work in isolation. Now, you are a part of a small group of peers who've been asked to prepare, produce, and deliver a short, dynamic, motivational activity for the rest of the management team to take part in it. And here is what you need to be able to do is discuss the outcome of that activity with your peers to critically assess how successful the application of motivation theories can be. So what I did in this case is used a bit of my creative flair. And using my creative flair, what I've done is, after reading the scenario given for Masterclass 2, what I did was I designed an activity called Motivate and Celebrate. And then this particular activity I have defined in relation to hitting and, you know, upping the morale. Basically, it's a motivational activity which has been designed to ensure that I'm able to, you know, bring up the morale of the staff working in the store and help them focus on their activities and also help in dealing with challenging customers. So using, you know, again, the creative bit here, what I've tried to do is basically, you know, create an activity, and that activity essentially, you know, is going to then fall back onto, you know, covering bits on motivation, which is part of your learning outcome too. And here what I've looked at is two theories that I've referred to in relation to my activity, which is Motivate and Celebrate. So I've looked at, you know, relating that to the Maslow's theory of need, hierarchy of needs, and Alderfer's ERG theory. So what I've looked at essentially is that because the staff morale is low, they work long hours, I have put in as a feedback to say that in order for the management to ensure that staff is happy and they're able to deal with challenging customers and work long shifts, they feel that they are being burnt out and they are demotivated. Now, in order to ensure that the staff are motivated, they are excited to come to work, they are passionate, they are, you know, raring to look at, you know, taking on the targets and achieving the goals. what I've said is that the company needs to look into the basic needs of the employee, and I've related that to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. So here I've said that in the theory, essentially when you look at, there are different types of requirements and needs of the employees, and if the management can meet those requirements, this would motivate the staff, and obviously we will see a positive outcome in terms of staff being happy and being motivated in the work environment. And this part of it actually covers the task 2, which is masterclass in terms of motivation. So here the focus is primarily to cover motivational theories. You have to relate it to the organization, Zara, and then explain how this is helping in terms of this activity that you've designed, motivate and celebrate, and then the relation of that to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and its application to show that Zara's management should look at introducing benefits for its employees at all levels. Some of these could be looking at meeting the 5 basic needs given in the in the framework, and that would help keep the employees motivated. Now, that completes the second part of the assignment. The third part is masterclass in terms of reflection. So here, after you've discussed your personality types and you've done your skills audit, you've talked about motivation. The third part basically looks at following the group activity in Masterclass 2, the completion of audits in Masterclass 1, you are now required to present the outcome of your results and participation in this activity. To support your improvements and recommendation, you need to include appropriate literature, additional business examples, and your presentation should include and cover some of these basic areas given in the assignment brief. So here is what I've looked at addressing these tasks by discussing about them individually. So the first bullet point is exploration of team and group behavior and its relevant to effective team. So here I've talked about my team. As a store manager, I'm talking about my team when I lead a particular team at these Zara stores in Manchester. And what I've done is I have written about that how would I use my personality and the outcomes that I've received from the skills audit and the personality audit, and how would I use that within my team? How would I keep them motivated, and obviously look at giving them roles which are going to be basis their skill set, and that is what I've discussed in the first part. Now, in the second part of this, which is the assessment of reflection of results on audit and your participation in that activity, I have basically further put in details of what could be the challenges and what are the challenges I face as a store manager, as a graduate trainee store manager, and then how do I go about let's say overcoming those challenges. That is what I've spoken about. And then in the assessment and reflection part, I have again fallen back and talked about my masterclass 1 in the assessment that I've done, and how would I do and change some of the things when I lead the team in the store. For example, if I expect as a manager, what I normally do is that I do early morning briefings before we open the store, and I normally allocate jobs and responsibilities to a lot of the staff which is working on the floor. So I believe in rotation. So what I sometimes do is get some of the employees to work on tills, some of the employees to work on merchandising, some of the employees to be on the floor in order to assist customers. Some of the employees being on the returns counter, and then some of the employees working in the background to be able to replenish stock in the store as and when the inventory gets depleted. Now, there are bits and pieces of roles, things like being at the front of the store, meeting and greeting the clients, ensuring security is there, ensuring there is low pilferage or no pilferage happening, or theft happening in the store. These are some of the things that I would normally do goal setting on, and this is what I've explained in this part of the task. Now, in terms of challenges, what I've done in terms of challenges is primarily talked about that what were the challenges that I have faced while working in the store and managing the team, and these challenges is what I've discussed here in this part of the assignment. Now, towards the end, what I've also looked at is after looking at the whole assignment, which is my role as a graduate trainee store manager, and then the team that I have worked with, my personality audit in terms of tests, that I've done an audit for my skills and personality and my traits, and how do I put and motivate, essentially put my skills to test and help motivate my staff in the store to be able to go after and achieve the store objectives. I have towards the end then looked at a consideration and justification of what I would do as a manager and how would I build an effective team which will be motivated to work and achieve the objectives in the store. So I have looked at a bit of an introspection in terms of how I would, be looking at changing some of the things basis the personality test and the skills audit that I've done, what it informs me about my strengths, my weaknesses, my personality, my attributes. And this is what I have done a bit of reflection on. And then towards the end, what I've also done is made a bit of recommendations to say that this is what the managers would need to do in other stores in order to basically keep the staff motivated. And this has helped me complete the first part of the assignment, which is given in the assignment brief, part 1, management and personality portfolio. Now, this sampler that I've got here, I'm going to primarily make that available to you on Moodle. And this would be something that you can refer to in order to ensure that, you have something available to be able to see in terms of how I've gone about doing it. I'm also going to try and insert the website which I've looked at for doing the personality tests, and my suggestion would be to use this site to basically look at completing your test results and then put the results of it primarily for the purposes of assessment on the assignment. Now let me get this done. So this part is basically a Word document consisting of 3 masterclasses, evidence to be produced. The first part of the evidence is primarily going to be the test that you do on the website. Take screenshots of it, download the test results, put it in the annexure, and then the summary of it would be explaining what have you learned from these tests in terms of completing this personality and attribute test. And then you mention a reflective statement in terms of learnings and what could be the improvements that you do. Part 2 of the masterclass is to create an activity which will help you keep your staff motivated, because they work long shifts, they deal with challenging customers, and obviously in some cases, lack of morale steps in, or the morale goes down, keeping in mind the same monotonous work which most of the employees are doing day in, day out in the store. And this is where you need to design an activity by using your creative ideas, and then put and do an inflection of this and relate it to one of the motivational theories that you're going to be proposing, that you as a store manager and Zara as a group uses to keep their staff motivated towards accepting challenges and working within the store operations. Last part of the class is basically a reflection in terms of what you've learned by carrying out the activity and also by undertaking the personality and skills audit test. That is what needs to be summarized in terms of an overall assumption and provide recommendations to say that this is what would need to be done and in the group to be able to, get the staff keep the staff motivated, get them to, pick up and take challenging tasks, work long shifts, and obviously, or work tirelessly towards achieving the objectives of the organization. So this would be available as a sample, and I would close the first part of the assignment brief and also the sampler. Now, in the second part of the assignment, we are focused on power, politics, and culture. Now, this assignment is going to be released today. And again, this requires you to produce a 1,500 to 2,000 words, let's say an academic poster. Now, this would mean you're looking at producing a concise Word document, which primarily would be referenced. And then this would cover the learning outcome 4 given in the unit, which is examine how power, politics, culture can be used to influence employee behavior and accomplish organizational goal. Now here the word limit suggested is 1,500 to 2,000 words. So there are obviously the same recommended books. The websites have changed because they are more related to power, politics, and culture within an organization. So there are some good articles that you can read to get some idea. And then there are 3 or 4 journals or relevant articles which have also been, mentioned here. they can be accessed through the HN Global platform. And then in the scenario, we are going to continue the same theme. You're going to follow the same example or the organization, which is Zara. And in your role, again, what you're expected to do is, so if I put it this way, basically as a graduate store trainee store manager, your central office has raised concerns with you that that the organizational power politics are negatively influencing the culture of the business. This is preventing some stores from achieving the set business goals. So as a graduate trainee store manager running an operation, you must now be commercially aware and be responsible for delivering on sales target while delighting the customers at every interaction. Now, you've been asked to investigate power politics and culture influence and how culture influences the employee behavior and impact of customer satisfaction and sales. Now, your investigation will be presented as an academic poster in your next masterclass training session, which will focus on driving performance and productivity. So here is what we are going to be looking at is producing a Word document, which is going to be about 1,500 to 2,000 words. And we're going to be looking at the aspect of learning outcome 4, which primarily covers things like influence of power, influence of politics, and what influence does it have on the employee behavior, and as a result, the culture of the organization. Now here, you are required to discuss different perspectives of power. So we could look at discussing any one of the 3 theoretical models that we've discussed, the Hofstede's, 6 dimensions. You could also look at Kevin Scholl's, 6 web elements that they proposed, and the Edgar Schein's 3 elements or 3 facets that he has proposed in terms of the culture of the organization. Now, when we look at the power side of things, you could discuss Charles Handy's power framework, and then what is their relation to organizational politics. Here, you will also be looking at discussing the levels of culture and how national culture can influence management and employee behavior within the organization Zara. And then towards the end, you're looking at discussing and summarizing the combined effect of power, politics, and culture on behavior and the accomplishment of organizational goals. So what I've done here is, in terms of, I've looked at doing a bit of an introduction first in terms of, the tasks that I'm going to be looking at and what organization and what I would be looking at investigation. So a bit of an introduction that I've done. After that, I've talked about the different perspectives of power. And what I've done here is I've related, I've not chosen any particular model, but what I've talked about is Zara's organizational structure, decision-making, how is the decision-making happening within the organization, and then talking about where is the power centered and how decision-making, or how people within different, departments within the organization have the ability or have the decision-making power available. And then I've gone into talking and, kind of discussing different perspectives of power and the culture within the organization, within Zara as an organization. Now, I've then focused on talking about the occurrence of organizational politics, because this is what is in the task. The management has tasked you to look at investigating how power, politics, and culture are influencing employee behavior. So I've talked about a bit of an organizational perspective of how do we see politics happening within Zara, and at what level this is actually influencing employee behavior. And I've taken examples, of organizational politics by taking a specific example of what I see and what I think happens in stores when you have different employees and different people working within a store to deliver objectives of the organization. Now, then I've also talked about the different type of culture that Zara has in different countries. If you recall, in the scenario that we've given in the assignment brief one, we've talked about a company which has operations in different geographies, including, say, England, Germany, Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand. And that is basically looking at reflecting on what kind of culture is prevalent within that country. So in reference to, for example, the influence of national culture, I have then looked at reading into the Zara's website in UK and reading into Zara's website maybe elsewhere in a country like Vietnam, and then understanding what is the national culture. I have interpreted how this actually either aligns or disaligns with the culture which is prevalent in the organization in that particular geography. So Zara stores in Vietnam, typically, how do they function? Or Zara stores within England, how do they function? So in the context of one country, I've looked at England in particular, and I've said here the culture is direct communication. It is open channels of communication between management and the store employees. And additionally, what I've also put across is certain characteristics which I see that employees have, or how employees behave when they take on responsibility and then do their day-to-day operations when they work within the store. And you would need to reflect on one particular type of store or geography, rather than looking at two countries or two different, because the idea here is to relate what kind of national culture is present within that country, and how does it emulate or help let's say, put some light on the organizational culture in Zara. And that is what is reflected in this particular part of the assignment in learning outcome 4. And then towards the end, what I've done is I've summarized what is the combined effect of power, politics, and culture on the employee behavior and the accomplishments of Zara as an organization, and have looked at doing that for a point of view of one store only as a graduate trainee store manager. And this is my perspective of what I see in terms of how goals and objectives of the stores are achieved. And this is in particular what I've observed when I visit Zara stores. And obviously I see the interaction between the employees, managers, and different colleagues working to serve and meet customer requirements. This is what has been put in towards the end. And then lastly, I have made some recommendations in terms of how the management should look at encouraging open, culture, and a culture wherein they can expect employees to focus, in a culture in which they can expect employees driving productivity and obviously performance, thereby increasing, as a manager, looking at increasing the performance of the employees within the organization. And this part of the assignment then would be focused primarily on, discussing the influence of power, politics, and culture within Zara as a company that we have chosen with regards to the scenario and the context which has been given from a point of view of the assignment brief. So I hope this has given you a detailed perspective in terms of how you'll go about, completing, essentially the assignment. And what I would expect you to do is, provide, the assignments submission via learnerwork at ukversity.co.uk. And this, assignment would essentially be, both would be Word assignments that you would submit as per the given formats which are required, and I would expect them to be submitted by the guidelines or by the deadline dates which have been provided on the assignment brief. Now, if you have any questions with regards to the assignment brief, so here towards the end, as you can see, I've put in the grid, which is just only learning outcome 4. And this would be looking at hitting the assessment criteria P6, M4, and D3. Now, if you make justified recommendations and you summarize it quite well, I think what you're looking at doing is obviously achieving the grades that you want to. And, depending on how your assessment and your analysis is done primarily in the, assignment, that is what is going to be helping you. And obviously the use of examples and showing the application of key frameworks that we've studied, in this particular unit, primarily, starting with personality test and going to motivational theories. Then we are going towards, some of the culture theories that we've discussed. And last but not the least, team working models, which can be, referenced while doing your work. And obviously, when you cover theory, if you show applications and relate that to the company Zara and how you feel this theory is more more related to the organization and how it influences employee behavior or power or politics within the organization, how does it motivate employees, how does it affect team building, that would be looking at moving you into higher grade category. So both these samples that you see, I will show that for a second, the sample 2 essentially, and that would be looking at that would be essentially looking at, meeting the requirements of this assignment. Now, one of the things that you can also do, which I normally would recommend and suggest, is that at any given stage, try and include images and pictures, of relevant models, frameworks within your assignment. And that would obviously look at, providing the perspective and relating to building arguments. You don't need to start from scratch, and that should help you in obviously meeting the word limits and the criteria. Do keep in mind that there is your plagiarism or your referencing has to be there. Now, in my assignments, mostly I develop bibliography, because what you would see is I've not done any in-text referencing. It's mostly references that I've looked at in terms of the books that we've got on Moodle. And that would mean that, at some stage, I am looking at, paraphrasing most of the work that I'm studying, and then appropriately writing it in my own words, and then detailing out a bibliography list towards the end, which shows the work, which shows the locations or the sources from which I have looked at, putting the work into my assignment. Now, that is how the unit is fully reflective now on Moodle. The assignment brief 2 is here, and assignment brief 1 is here, and I'm going to be uploading these two, sampler assignments as well, so that you are able to essentially look at them for the purposes of relating to, and then be able to then submit these assignments, by the due dates, I would say 19th and the 9th of, April. So let me get these samples here for you. And that would basically be looking at completing our session today and this particular unit on organizational behavior. So let me put that sample here. And then the first one, so that those are the bits that you have available for you to refer, should you wish to do so. And they would be, hopefully helping you to, complete the assessment and the assignments for this particular unit. So thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, I will be able to take them now. And if not, then you can also send these questions across to me on email or on the WhatsApp group. And I will catch up with you next week, wherein we are going to be starting the next unit, which is research project. And that unit would essentially be starting on Saturday. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.